"Sir, she's too weak to beg," the little girl whispered, her voice trembling with urgency. The CEO froze, peering into the trunk, his heart stopping at the sight. The words cut through the laughter and clinking glasses like a ghostly echo. Nathaniel. Storm turned slowly, unsure if his ears had betrayed him. The beachfront resort shimmered under golden chandeliers, the air thick with jasmine, sea breeze, and the tang of fine wine dot around him. The elite of Miami sipped champagne beneath silk-draped canopies, their voices a soft hum of wealth and privilege. The ocean murmured just beyond the stone terrace. But Nathaniel's mind was elsewhere until that small voice yanked him back. He looked down. A girl, no older than 4, stood barefoot on the marble stair's edge. Her dress was tattered, her cheeks sunken, her eyes wide with desperate hope. She clutched a crumpled event flyer, damp from her tiny grip, bearing Nathaniel's polished smile as the CEO of Starhaven Resorts. "Sir," she repeated, softer now, her voice breaking. "She's too weak to beg." Nathaniel's brows furrowed, his heart pounding with unease. Before he could speak, 2 security guards surged forward, hands outstretched. "Wait," Nathaniel barked, raising a palm. "Don't touch her." The girl flinched, stepping back, but then her small, icy hand grabbed his. "Please," she whispered, eyes pleading. "This way." He let her lead, her grip fierce despite her size. They wove through the garden terrace, past stunned guests, murmurs rising like a gathering storm. Down a cobblestone path, the music and laughter faded, replaced by the quiet of the night. The girl said nothing more, her determination guiding them across the valet lane to a shadowed parking lot. Luxury cars, Lamborghinis, Porsches, gleaming imports shone under soft lights, but she pulled him past them to a dim corner where a rusted sedan crouched, half hidden. The car trembled faintly, as if alive. The engine was off, the bumper sagging. It didn't belong here. Nathaniel's chest tightened. "Is someone in there?" he asked, voice low. The girl nodded, solemn. She couldn't walk anymore. He hesitated, then popped the trunk and froze. A woman lay crumpled inside, still as death. Dark hair spilled across her bruised face, her thin arms curled protectively around herself. Her lips were pale, barely parted, but her face, God, that face. His vision narrowed, time unraveling like a dream. Alara, she'd vanished 5 years ago after a reported car crash. No body, just twisted metal and headlines. He'd mourned her, buried her in his heart. Yet here she was, alive, barely breathing. Reached for her, checking her pulse. It was faint, a fragile thread. His voice caught, raw with shock. The girl whispered beside him. "She always said you were real." Guards arrived, flashlights cutting the dark. "Sir." "What?" Nathaniel stood, shielding the car. "Get an ambulance," he ordered, voice sharp. "Now." He gently lifted Alara from the trunk, her body light as a ghost. Her eyelids fluttered, and, through the haze of pain, recognition flickered in her eyes. He laid her across the sedan's back seat with trembling care. The girl climbed in, clutching her mother's hand. "She's my mama," she said, her fierce, tired eyes meeting his. Nathaniel swallowed hard. "What's your name?" "Ivy," she replied. He nodded, the world tilting under the weight of this impossible truth. "We're getting her help," he said softly. "I promise." As sirens wailed faintly over the waves, he stood staring at the woman he'd loved more than life itself. Her chest rose and fell, fragile as hope reborn. Ivy leaned in, whispering like it was a sacred secret. "She's too weak to beg, but not to remember." Nathaniel slipped through the hospital's glass doors, Ivy's hand still tight in his feet. She clung to her mother's limp fingers as paramedics wheeled Alara away. "My name is Storm," Nathaniel told the receptionist, voice steady despite his racing heart. "I found them near the beach. She needs help." He waved off paparazzi, shielding Ivy from prying eyes. Within minutes, Alara was in emergency care, and Ivy was led to a waiting area with coloring books and cocoa. Nathaniel, still in his tuxedo from the resort's gala, stood outside the trauma room, feeling exposed, his polished shoes echoing on the linoleum as he paced. 5 years ago, he'd fallen for Alara, a painter with raven hair and eyes that held the world's secrets. She'd captured sunrises with the same fire she used to challenge his corporate empire. She'd rejected his father's offers to buy her loyalty, wanting love, not deals. The last night they spoke, her voice had shaken. "I can't become someone I'm not, Nate. Hours later, her car was found wrecked by the coast. No body, just silence. A nurse approached. "Mr. Storm, the girl's dehydrated, but okay. She's in the children's wing." He nodded and found Ivy, her small hands sketching on a pad. "She sings to me at night," Ivy said, unprompted. "Even when she's tired, she sings softly." Nathaniel's breath hitched. Elara had sung him a French lullaby once, her voice a tender whisper on a rainy night. "She calls you Naty," Ivy said suddenly. He froze. Naty, the nickname only Elara had ever used. Ivy nodded. "She said your name was hard to say when she missed you, but she liked it." His chest ached, hands trembling. He knelt. "Why did you find me, Ivy?" She showed him the crumpled flyer with his face. "I found it by the beach. I knew you could help." That flyer, discarded from the gala, had somehow reached her. Fate, or something more. "Thank you for trusting me," he said. She leaned into him, exhausted. "Don't leave her again," she murmured. Later, at the nurse's station, Nathaniel demanded answers, records, identification, anything. When the nurse hesitated, he handed over his card. "Nathaniel Storm, contact me if there's an issue." In the quiet hallway, Ivy's laughter echoed in his mind, impossibly bright despite the horror. Her words, her sketches, all pointed to an undeniable truth. The woman in the trunk was Elara, not a ghost, not a trick. She was alive, scarred but here. He closed his eyes and whispered, "I won't lose you again." Elara woke to the hum of fluorescent lights, blurry halos overhead. Panic surged. She thought she was back in that dark cell, silent, screaming. Then the smell of coffee, cool sheets, and the steady beep of monitors grounded her. She saw him. Nathaniel stood in the doorway, eyes wide with grief and disbelief. "No," she rasped, voice dry. "I know you. You're not safe." He stepped closer. "Careful. You're safe now," he said softly. "You're home." Tears spilled as she shook her head. I don't know what's real." Their eyes locked, recognition flickering through her pain. Ivy stirred, climbing into a chair beside her mother. "Draw, Mama," she whispered, placing a sketch pad in Elara's trembling hands. Elara stared at the pencil, a memory too heavy to hold. Her shaky lines were chaotic, aching. She smeared them, unable to bear it. Later, Nathaniel brought a tray juice soup, warm bread. He said nothing, just knelt with Ivy, helping her draw. "A beach," Ivy said, pointing to the colors, Mama's favorite. Elara's throat tightened. It was their beach, light bursting over waves. Nathaniel drew a sun over the sea. "The sun always comes back," he murmured. That night, he fed Ivy, held juice for Elara. She sipped cautiously, eyes never leaving his Bova days. He stayed present, but gentle, calling in private investigators, probing trafficking routes discreetly. He feared his father, Vincent, was involved. On the third morning, seeing him share crayons with Ivy, Elara sobbed into her blanket. He knelt, offering soup. She took it, whispering, "Did you know she's your daughter?" Nathaniel's voice broke. "I hoped, but I didn't know until now." Tears fell. "I wanted to tell you," she said, "but I couldn't. I was alone." He took her hand. "You're not anymore." Silence held them, mother, daughter, and the man who'd lost them. Later, Nathaniel left her drawing a child's hand, reaching for a rising sun. Elara pulled Ivy close. "I'll try again," she whispered. In the hall, Nathaniel sat with Ivy's sketchbook, pages of shaky suns and seascapes. The past was shattered, but something fragile and real was forming. Elara lay in her hospital bed, afternoon light spilling across the floor. Nathaniel sat beside her, Ivy on his lap. Silence carried a fragile peace. She stared at the ceiling, unsure of this new world. Finally, she turned to him. "I'm afraid," she said, voice thin. "I don't belong in your world anymore." He swallowed. "You belong here, with us." She looked at Ivy, then him. "I was hidden in a basement in Eastern Europe, moved like merchandise. No name, no home. I survived by holding your face in my mind." Her lips trembled. "After years, I heard them mention a name, Mr. Storm. I think it was your father." The world tilted. Nathaniel's knuckles whitened, holding Ivy tighter. "He's in the family business," he said quietly. Elara winced. "I never saw him, but in that darkness, I whispered your name to survive." Nathaniel leaned forward, eyes dark. "You never told me this." He took a breath. "I want to know everything." She hesitated, torn between shame and trust. "I was moved from cell to cell, given numbers, They sold women, children. I was pregnant once. They took the child. Except Ivy. She touched her daughter's hair. Nathaniel felt her grief like a blade. He placed his hand over hers. I'll find who did this, no matter who. That night, he visited his father's mansion, stepping into a locked vault. He found a gold pendant, Alaris, engraved with her initial. He'd given it to her under a willow tree years ago. Fury rose. The next morning, he laid the pendant beside Ivy's drawing of a sun breaking through clouds. Ilara's tears fell. How did you? She began. In your basement. Did they mention money? Donations from Mr. Storm? She nodded, pale. They called it charity, but we had price tags. He turned the pendant in his hand, silence heavy. I want records, he said. Bank transfers, offshore accounts, anything tied to Starhaven's parent company. Ilara reached for him. I'm sorry I couldn't tell you until now. He squeezed her wrist. You're alive. That's enough. In his study, Nathaniel pored over ledgers, tracing millions moved to obscure Eastern European non-profits under Mr. Storm. A ledger entry matched the year Ilara vanished. Enough to fund a trafficking ring. He leaned back, breath shallow, the monstrous truth clear. His father had financed her captivity. I won't let her suffer again, he whispered, leaving the ledgers open. The next morning, he showed Ilara the documents. She read, shaking, tears falling not from pain, but from relief that the truth was known. Ivy watched, her tiny fist clenched. They sat, a fragile family, glinting in the morning light, healing through truth. The air in Vincent Storm's study smelled of leather and polished wood, cold despite its grandeur. Nathaniel stood in a tailored suit, clutching evidence. Vincent, 63 and regal, regarded his son coolly. You summoned me, Vincent said. We must speak. Nathaniel's voice was steel. You taught me the world is cruel, but you gave that cruelty a name. He slid bank statements across the desk. Explain this. Donations under Mr. Storm to Eastern Europe when Ilara disappeared. Vincent's face darkened. Investments, reputation, management, strategic generosity. Nathaniel inhaled sharply. Investments in trafficking rings, where women and children were torn apart. I found ledgers. Ilara's pendant in your safe. How long did you hide her? Vincent leaned back, cold. The world is harsh. I shielded you from scandal, from weakness tainting our name. Nathaniel's voice was quiet but fierce. You fueled darkness. You used our power to destroy innocence. Vincent rose, pacing. Your mother was nothing. Ilara was everything you wanted, an artist, a dreamer. I removed her before she ruined you. Silence hit like a hammer. Nathaniel's loyalty shattered. You weaponized our power. Vincent's jaw tightened. Everything was for this family. Nathaniel stepped forward. Then I'm no longer your heir. Starhaven isn't my legacy. Justice is. He left the ledgers, Vincent's disdain burning behind him. You'd destroy what I built, Vincent said. Nathaniel didn't waver. I'd burn privilege built on pain. That evening, Nathaniel returned to the hospital, carrying Ivy's sketchbook and a small coat. Ilara sat upright, pale but alert, Ivy asleep on her lap. I resigned, he said softly. Her eyes widened. What? I resigned from Starhaven. I refused that role. I'll expose everything. He brushed Ivy's hair. I'll work with foundations that help people like us. Tears welled in Ilara's eyes. You're risking everything. He touched her hair. Nothing matters more than truth. He handed her Ivy's drawing, a sun through storm clouds. Ilara traced it, trembling. Ivy stirred, nestling closer. We rebuild, Ivy, he whispered. Together. It wasn't fists or fireworks, it was an earthquake of integrity. Nathaniel chose justice over legacy, vulnerability over control. He sat with them until the night quieted, listening to Ivy's breathing and Ilara's tears of relief. Vincent's empire wasn't worth his silence. Ilara stared out the cabin's window at a misty dawn, tension in every breath. Nathaniel sat across from her at a wooden table, pencils and paper scattered. Ivy slept in the bedroom. You don't have to face cameras or headlines, he said gently. Ilara's voice shook. I survived in silence. A spotlight might break me. He leaned forward. I don't need you to be the CEO's love. I need you to be you. Her eyes glistened. That woman's gone. He shook his head. She just needed time. The cabin smelled of pine, a haven far from Starhaven's marble halls. He'd brought them here to heal, away from news vans, Why are we here? She asked. To breathe, he said. To find who we are beyond the past. He handed her paper. Ivy peeked out, holding her sketchpad. Mama, draw with me, she said shyly. Ilara's fingers trembled, drawing shaky horizons. Nathaniel sketched beside her, sky and sea. Ivy watched, curious. For the first time, Ilara wasn't tracing paint, she was creating light. Later, he cooked soup, bread, fruit. Ivy ate, her, careful chewing a sign of new beginnings. Ilara watched him pour water, offer seconds. He let Ivy pick a gentle playlist, filling the cabin with warmth. Why do this? Ilara asked after Ivy slept. Nathaniel paused. Because the woman in that hospital bed deserves tenderness, not pity. I want to walk beside her. She swallowed. I thought I'd lose you again. He brushed her hair. I was pregnant, she whispered raw. I lost the baby. I thought I wasn't worthy of love. His eyes filled. Ivy dreamed of a sister. I suspected. Then you told me. Ivy's my daughter too. Tears fell. I thought you'd leave. He stepped closer. I stayed. Their lips met soft, hesitant, electric. A kiss bridging time and sorrow. The weight of loss dissolved in his arms. They pulled back, foreheads touching. I'll be here, always, Nathaniel whispered. Ilara nodded, tears shining. Ivy padded in, yawning, grinning as she dove into her mother's lap. Ilara held her, staring at Nathaniel. I think I remember how to smile. He rested his cheek on Ivy's head. And I remember why I fell in love. Dawn's light bathed them, three fragile figures bound by truth. No titles, just love born from tragedy. Nathaniel stood before Starhaven's boardroom, arms trembling as he prepared to play a recording. The board watched, tense. This is from a former assistant, he said. She recorded my father authorizing donations to Shell non-profits. The assistant's voice filled the room. Asterisk, asterisk funds. The board's faces paled. A shaky voice added, he knew what the money was buying. Nathaniel stopped the recording. Silence roared. I couldn't let this stay hidden, he said. News exploded with headlines of Vincent Storm's trafficking ties. Nathaniel presented documents, bank records, messages. I resign as CEO, he said. I refuse to lead lies. I'll transfer my shares for a transparent transition. A board member stood, shaken. This is unprecedented. Nathaniel replied, no, it's trust. He announced the Ivy Light Foundation for survivors like Ilara. He left, clutching Ivy's sketchbook and Ilara's pendant. At the cabin, Ilara sat on a bench, Ivy playing nearby. She looked wary. Nathaniel approached. I did everything I promised. She nodded. You did. Join Ivy Light, he said. Shape programs for survivors through art. Her breath caught. Can I draw again? He brushed her hair. Teach others to heal. He gave her a key. Every program your name on it. Her voice cracked. Thank you. They traveled to shelters, Ilara leading art workshops, Ivy spreading warmth. Starhaven announced an audit. Vincent's name vanished. Investigators moved in. One evening, a survivor offered a painting, lights through the trunk, a glowing trunk lid. Ilara whispered, it's healing. Nathaniel took her hand. Because you chose truth. Ivy tugged them close, grinning. You built something real, he said. Ilara smiled. He gave me back who I was. A year later, in a Brooklyn gallery, Return from Silence opened. Its centerpiece, the trunk and the light, showed a woman reaching for a glowing trunk, a child's hand at its edge. Guests whispered, moved by escape and renewal. A woman told Ilara, your story's powerful. Thank you. Ilara's eyes brimmed. She whispered to Nathaniel, let's build a world Ivy never has to escape. He squeezed their hands, tears falling not of pain, but healing. Ilara taught children to draw, guiding their chaotic strokes. Nathaniel lingered, gathering their things. She leaned into him, the painting glowing, their story alive in light. I want to teach kids who feel they don't belong, she said. He kissed her forehead. Let's make it happen. Hand in hand, they stood before the painting, three souls, linked by truth, love, and a promise of a world no child need flee. If this story stirred your heart, reminding you of love, resilience, and second chances, stay with us. At Kindness Power Stories, we share emotional tales, weekly stories that heal, inspire, and remind us what matters. Subscribe so you never miss a moment that could change your heart. If the trunk and the light moved you, like, share, and tell us in the comments, what would you do for love that refuses to give up? Thank you for joining us. Every soul has a story,